You can't outrun your reflection. You can't outmarket your integrity. You can't outsell your laziness. You can't out-network your self-doubt. And no matter how clever your tactics or how loud your brand, you can't out-earn the person you are. Because income is not luck. It's identity. And every dollar you earn is a direct report card on the version of you that walked into the world this week. Wealth doesn't come to the version of you you pretend to be. It comes to the one you've built through discipline, through decisions, through deep, uncomfortable, soul-breaking development. You can dress the part. You can speak the language. You can surround yourself with big thinkers and high performers. But if you haven't yet become the person who can handle wealth, it will slip through your fingers like water every time, because the marketplace doesn't lie. It reflects. And the truth is, most people are trying to add commas to their bank account without upgrading the core operating system behind it. They want more wealth, but they haven't expanded their capacity. They want more opportunity, but they haven't upgraded their discipline. They want new results while still operating under old programming. But life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are when no one's watching, who you are when the emotion fades, who you are when consistency is required, but convenience is calling. And every result in your life, your income, your health, your relationships is simply a reflection of that person. You don't earn what you wish for. You earn what you are aligned with. If you want more, become more. Because you can't rise above your self-concept. You can't maintain $1 million result with a minimum wage mindset. You will always fall to the level of your internal thermostat. And unless you raise that thermostat, your habits, your beliefs, your energy, your rituals, your results will sabotage themselves. It's not sabotage from the outside. It's sabotage from within. Because your nervous system will fight to return to what feels familiar. And if chaos is familiar, you'll recreate it. If lack is familiar, you'll reproduce it. If comfort is king in your world, growth will always feel like war. So the first step to earning more is not doing more. It's becoming someone who is wired for more. That means doing the deep work, upgrading your beliefs, installing new habits, letting go of your identity as someone who hustles just to survive and stepping into the identity of someone who expects overflow. Not because it's guaranteed, but because they've become the kind of person who backs their vision with execution, who shows up when it's inconvenient, who trains when others sleep, who delivers when others delay. Because when you build yourself, everything else catches up. The clients show up. The contracts land. The doors open. The right people arrive. Not because you manipulated them, but because you magnetized them. And magnetism comes from identity. It comes from a deep, unshakable knowing that you are no longer trying to get rich. You are living in a way that makes wealth an inevitable side effect. You've moved past wishing, past waiting, past wanting. You are now working on the only thing that actually changes your life. You, the inner architecture, the daily rituals, the standard you hold when no one's keeping score, the invisible disciplines that silently compound until your life becomes unrecognizable. And here's what no one tells you. The version of you that is earning what you desire already exists, but you must kill off the version of you that keeps you small. The version addicted to distraction. The version who plays victim to the market. The version who blames the system instead of building something that transcends it. Because until that part of you dies, your destiny can't breathe. You can't keep carrying the old you and expecting a new life. That baggage has weight. It costs energy. It dilutes your focus. And every time you try to run faster while dragging it, your body remembers the truth. You are still moving like someone who's afraid to let go of who they were. But the only path forward is rebirth. The death of the performer. The death of the pretender. The death of the excuse maker. And the rise of someone so aligned with growth, with truth, with integrity, That wealth becomes a natural reflection, not a forced pursuit. You don't chase it anymore. You attract it by alignment. And what does alignment look like? It looks like discipline in the dark. It looks like studying when your friends are sleeping. It looks like learning from every failure without making it part of your identity. It looks like knowing exactly who you are and never outsourcing your worth to applause, rejection, or results. You want more? Don't work harder. Work deeper. Work on the root, not the branches. Because the fruit you're producing is tied to the roots you've grown in silence. And if you grow them deep enough, if you do the boring work, the inner work, the uncelebrated work, you will not be able to stop the results. They will chase you down because they won't be a reward. They'll be a reflection because mindset is the soil where every result is born. And most people are planting seeds of greatness into soil poisoned by doubt. They want abundance while rehearsing scarcity. They want excellence while tolerating average. They want to rise while surrounding themselves with voices that have never flown. But a wealthy life cannot grow in a poor mindset. And poverty is not just a financial condition, it is a mental posture. It is the posture of, I'm doing my best, instead of, I'll find a better way. It is the belief that someone else holds the key, instead of realizing you are the key. Your life will never go where your thoughts don't lead. Your money will never exceed your mental capacity. Your freedom will never outgrow your frame of identity. So what do you believe? Truly. About yourself? About money? About success? About what you're worth? Because your actions are already answering. Every late alarm, every skipped plan, every justification for staying comfortable that's belief talking, every time you say, this is just who I am, that's not personality. That's a prison. Every time you dismiss an opportunity because you feel unqualified, that's not humility. That's habitual self-sabotage. And it ends when your vision becomes stronger than your history. When the image of where you're going pulls harder than the voice of who you've been. Because vision is the fire that turns effort into obsession. It's the reason you say no to average. It's the reason you walk away from what's good, because you're after what's yours. Without vision, discipline feels like suffering. With vision, discipline becomes devotion. And yes, you will need discipline. Not just to work harder, but to work wisely. To guard your energy. To focus your time like a sniper, not a sprinkler. To build rituals so powerful they build you back. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your potential from being wasted on trivial things. It protects your future from being buried beneath distraction. It protects your legacy from being diluted by inconsistency. Every time you honor your word to yourself, every time you do the thing no one else is willing to do, every time you delay gratification to build something unshakable, you are building you. The person who can outearn, outlast, outserve, and out-impact anything you've ever dreamed of. And once you become that person, money doesn't become the goal. It becomes the consequence. You no longer measure wealth in numbers. You measure it in who you've become, in how calm you are in chaos, in how deeply you can serve, in how many lives you shift just by standing in your truth. Because now, your presence is your power. Your words carry weight. Your life becomes a transmission of what's possible when you finally stop negotiating with the version of yourself that kept you small. That version? Let it die. Let it go. You've outgrown it. Now, you walk in vision. You move in discipline. You breathe belief. And you don't just want success anymore. You embody the kind of person who creates it. Because once belief becomes breath, once discipline becomes your rhythm, what's next is clarity. Clarity is the compass. Without it, effort becomes chaos. You can be busy every hour and still end up nowhere. Motion is not progress. Urgency is not purpose. And doing more doesn't matter if you're unclear on why you're doing it. Clarity cuts through the noise. It says, This is who I am. This is what I build. These are the standards I protect at all costs. You no longer wake up hoping to find direction. You wake up and execute the vision you've already written in your soul. Clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from doing. It sharpens in the fire of action. You take a step, you get feedback, you adjust again and again until your path is no longer a guess, it's a mission. And once you have clarity, action becomes sacred, not frantic, not performative, but precise, deliberate, focused like a blade sharpened for impact. You stop being available for everything. You stop explaining your every move. You stop trying to impress because now you're too busy building something unforgettable. This is how you become powerful. Not by what you say, but by what you finish. By what you consistently complete. By what you ship while others are still starting. Action is the proof. The signal to life itself that you're no longer playing games with your potential. And yet, even with clarity and action, the journey will test you. That's why you need resilience. Not the fake kind that pretends nothing hurts, but the real kind that keeps building while bleeding, that adapts without breaking, that knows how to bend without shattering. Because you will fail. You will be misunderstood. You will have days where the results don't match the effort. But resilience whispers, this day is part of the process, not the definition. Resilience keeps you grounded in the long game. It reminds you that wealth is not won in days, it's won in decades of directionally correct decisions. That when others quit, you refine. When others panic, you pause and recalibrate. When others fall apart, you fall forward. You turn pressure into power. You turn setbacks into strategy. Because now you are not the same. You are no longer fragile. You are forged. Every hard day, every detour, every sleepless night, it wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for the moment. You would finally look in the mirror and realize you can't out-earn the person you are, but you can become the person who earns without limit. And now you are. You are not the same version of yourself that waited, that wished, that wavered. You've built a new identity, one forged in belief, sharpened by clarity, driven by discipline, anchored in action, hardened by resilience, and reborn in the fire of truth. And the truth is this: the greatest return on investment is not found in the market, not in crypto, not in real estate, not in stocks. It is found in you. Your identity is the greatest wealth vehicle you will ever build. And once that foundation is solid, once your standards are locked, once your values are untouchable, once your energy no longer leaks, once your vision is clear and your actions consistent, you become limitless. You become the kind of person who doesn't just rise with the tide, you change it. You don't just compete in the game, you design the field. You don't just ask for wealth, you embody the reason it should exist. And from here, your story is no longer about chasing success. It's about leading with value so deeply, so powerfully, that success becomes your echo. Not because you reached for it, but because you became the one who draws it in like gravity. Then listen closely, because this is where everything converges. This is the moment where the lies fall away, where your excuses dissolve, where your past stops dictating your worth, and your identity steps into its rightful place on the throne. You can't out-earn the person you are, but you can rebuild the person you are into someone who earns without limits. No more pretending. No more waiting to feel ready. No more blaming your boss, your city, your algorithm, your upbringing, your timing. You are the algorithm now. You are the system. You are the economy. You are the source. The money doesn't make you. You make the money. The results don't define you. You define the results. Because now you've seen what few ever realize. You are not a product of circumstance. You are a product of standard. And the person who holds the standard holds the power, holds the peace, holds the wealth. Because wealth is not just an income, it's the byproduct of internal alignment. And alignment is only earned through transformation, not inspiration, not temporary motivation. Transformation from the inside out. Every day, no fanfare, no applause. Just the daily decision to never again let the old you drive your future. That version is done. The version who hid behind overthinking, who drowned in doubt, who procrastinated on their greatness. That version is not equipped for where you're going. But the one who's emerging now, the one who believes differently, moves deliberately, lives decisively, that version has already changed everything because the shift already happened inside of you. And the outside world is simply catching up. You no longer fear the future. You architect it. You no longer wish for abundance. You align with it. You no longer chase validation. You walk in value. And the income, it'll come. It has to. Because the person you've become commands it. Not with arrogance, but with alignment. Not with ego, but with evidence. Not with noise, but with non-negotiables. From this moment forward, you are not earning from effort alone. You are earning from identity. You are building wealth from the core. You are writing a legacy with your decisions. You are no longer defined by what you used to be. You are now remembered for what you chose to become. So walk tall, speak truth, live sharp, lead with fire, and let the world feel what it looks like. When a human being finally understands, you cannot out-earn the person you are, but you can become someone wealth never dares to leave again. Now go and build that person, live that person, be that person, and let the world rise to meet you. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value because no one gets paid for existing. No one gets rewarded for just showing up. You're not paid for time. You're paid for impact. And the world, this brutal, beautiful, fast-moving world does not give you what you want. It gives you what you earn, and you earn it in value. Raise your value, and the money follows. Raise your value, and the doors open. Raise your value, and the world, indifferent as it seems, starts to notice. You see, most people have this backwards. They're sitting there, waiting for the boss to recognize them, waiting for the market to reward them, waiting for some moment when someone taps them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, you deserve more." But that moment never comes, not because you're not worthy, but because the world doesn't see worth. The world sees value, and value is visible, tangible. It moves things forward. It solves problems. It saves time. It increases profits. It brings peace. It makes life better, faster, smoother, stronger. That's value. And when you raise your value, you never have to beg for more. You attract more. But raising your value starts with raising your standards. Not just the standards of what you expect from others, the standards of what you demand from yourself. Your work ethic, your energy, your attention to detail, your emotional intelligence, your communication, your consistency. These are your stock price. Every day they rise or fall based on the choices you make when no one's watching. Do you want to earn more? Don't ask for more. Become more. More skilled, more focused, more disciplined, more aware, more useful. Because here's the hard truth. Money doesn't respond to need. Money responds to value. And value is built through sweat, through sacrifice, through a relentless obsession with growth. The people at the top, they're not always the smartest. They're not always the most connected, but they're valuable. They figured out how to become irreplaceable. They mastered a skill, owned a space, delivered results consistently. They didn't just clock in. They showed up differently. They walked in with ideas. They solved the problem before it was assigned. They paid attention to details no one else saw. They cared more and proved it in execution. So ask yourself, how do you raise your value? Not one day, not when you're inspired, but every single day. You start with this mindset, because value doesn't grow in a weak mind. It grows in a mastered one, a mind that takes ownership, a mind that doesn't make excuses, a mind that's allergic to blame and addicted to responsibility. You don't say, they didn't train me. You say, I'll learn it myself. You don't say, they don't see me. You say, I'll build something they can't ignore. You don't wait for someone to change your circumstances. You become the change. That's value. It starts inside. And when your mindset levels up, your language changes. You speak possibility, not limits. You speak solutions, not complaints. You become the person in the room who calms the chaos, not adds to it. And suddenly, people take notice. Why? Because value is rare, and rare is remembered. From mindset, we move to belief. Because you can't raise your value if you don't believe you have value to raise. And that belief, it can't be faked. You either believe you're here for more, or you've bought the lie that this is it. But here's what I know. You wouldn't be here if you were done growing. You wouldn't be listening if you were meant to settle. So, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know. You are capable. You are worthy. You are powerful. But now you must prove it. Not to them, to you. Prove it by building the skill. Prove it by showing up early. Prove it by staying late. Not for ego, not for approval, but because you're investing in your own stock value. Belief isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's the courage to invest in yourself before the world does. And that belief feeds clarity. Because once you believe in your value, you stop chasing everything. You stop trying to do it all. You get clear on your strengths, your purpose, your direction. Because confused people dilute their value. They try to serve everyone and end up helping no one. They try to be everything and become nothing memorable. But when you're clear, you simplify. You specialize. You become known for something, not everything. And that something becomes your signature. Your value multiplies when your clarity sharpens. So, what are you building? What are you becoming the best at? What do you solve better than anyone around you? If you don't know yet, find out. Fast. Because once you do, your actions become aligned. Your energy becomes precise. Your results become inevitable. And when clarity takes root, you start to move with vision. Not blind ambition, not hustle for the sake of hustle, but intentional, focused, long game vision. The kind of vision that creates legacy, not just lifestyle. You start to think beyond the next paycheck. You start building systems. You stop reacting and start designing. And in that vision, you see value expansion. You see how every book you read, every conversation you engage, every failure you endure is a deposit into the value account you're growing. You're no longer just working a job. You're building capital inside yourself. And that capital, that value, it eventually pays dividends the world can't ignore. And now comes the part where most people fall off. Discipline. Because once you have the mindset, the belief, the clarity, the vision, you're going to need the grit to keep showing up when the excitement disappears. You want to raise your value? Then raise your standards of consistency. Raise your tolerance for boredom. Raise your refusal to negotiate with distractions. Because raising your value isn't about doing more once. It's about doing the right things again and again until you become undeniably better. Discipline isn't sexy. Discipline doesn't post well on social media. Discipline doesn't get applause, not at first. But it gets wealth. It gets freedom. It builds respect first from yourself, then from everyone else. Discipline is when you study while others scroll. Discipline is when you refine your craft in silence while others perform in noise. Discipline is when you deliver no matter how you feel. That's how value grows. Every rep, every rep, every rep. And eventually, you look up and realize you didn't just change your income, you changed your identity. You became someone whose value is obvious even before you speak. And from discipline flows the river called action, because the world does not pay for intentions. It does not compensate you for potential. You can have all the belief, vision, and goals in the world, but if you don't move, you'll never be rewarded. The marketplace is only moved by execution. People pay for what they can see, not what you say you might do. So act. Launch the thing. Make the call. Pitch the idea. Study the material. Build the system. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for anyone else to clap before you begin. You be the first to move. Because action creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. And confidence increases your value, because confidence is currency. People trust those who act. People follow those who take initiative. People remember those who do more than expected. Let others talk. Let others hope. You execute. You move with intent. You do the small things with precision and the big things with courage. And over time, you build a reputation. That's the person who gets it done. That reputation is value. It's the invisible resume. It's what makes people think of you when opportunity needs a name. And that kind of value can't be faked. It must be earned relentlessly, religiously, repeatedly. And as you act, you start to develop the rarest asset of all, self-trust. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself, and that is priceless. Now, as the action compounds, as the work deepens, you start to recognize something powerful. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because it's who you are now. And in that space, you find something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude not just for the rewards, but for the process, for the discipline, for the struggle, for the days when it was hard and you showed up anyway. Because when you live this way, when you raise your value every day, not out of ego, but out of principle, you become grateful for the challenge. You no longer resent the grind. You honor it because you see it now. The grind is what makes you valuable. It's not just the outcomes. It's the transformation. And with gratitude comes a quiet power. You're not bitter. You're not entitled. You're not desperate. You are centered. You are anchored in purpose. You can smile while working. You can serve while growing. You can succeed without arrogance because you earned it. And that's elite value. Gratitude also softens your energy in the right ways. It sharpens your focus without hardening your heart. It helps you rise without forgetting where you came from. It keeps your value human, not just productive. People feel it. They trust it. Because true value isn't loud. It's present. It's felt. And the more you practice gratitude, the more opportunities seem to find you not by chance, but by alignment. You're in the right rooms, saying the right things, with the right people, at the right time, because your energy matches your value. And now you begin to master one of the greatest accelerators of all, adaptability. Because if raising your value is the goal, then staying valuable is the game. And the rules of the game are always changing. Markets shift. Trends fade. Technology evolves. Industries transform overnight. And what used to be valuable, what used to work, can become obsolete faster than you can update your resume. This is why adaptability is not optional. It is the edge. Because value that can't adapt is value that expires. But here's the beautiful truth. The most valuable people are not just specialists. They are specialists who can evolve. They know how to let go of outdated methods while holding on to timeless principles. They learn fast. They respond faster. They pivot without panic. They are not afraid to start over, to rethink, to restructure, to reframe, because they are not married to their method, they are married to the mission. They don't confuse pride with progress. They don't cling to what once worked just because it's familiar. They adapt, and in doing so, they stay ahead of the curve. While others are shaken by change, they ride it. While others complain about disruption, they innovate through it. And that's value in its most durable form. So if you want to raise your value long term, be humble enough to learn, fast enough to change, and bold enough to keep reinventing yourself. Don't wait to be pushed by change. Be pulled by evolution, because every time you stretch, every time you upgrade your perspective, your environment, your tools, your skills, you expand your capacity to serve. And service at its core is the root of all lasting value. When you adapt, you do more than survive. You lead. And people pay leaders not for their titles, but for their ability to move first, with clarity, courage, and creativity. Now let's talk about the furnace that refines all of this. Resilience. Because raising your value isn't a straight line. It's not always a rise. Sometimes it's a refining fire. You'll fail. You'll be overlooked. You'll be misunderstood. You'll make the wrong move, trust the wrong people, bet on the wrong opportunity. And if you're not careful, you'll start to question your worth. But here's what you must understand. Your value does not disappear just because the world doesn't recognize it yet. You are valuable, and setbacks don't subtract from that. They sculpt it. Every failure, proof that you're in the arena. Every rejection, a redirection. Every loss, a lesson, a rep in the gym of your evolution. Resilience is what lets you reinvest in your value, even when the world isn't clapping. It's the voice that says, let's go again. It's the heart that beats steady, even when the world feels shaky. Resilience says, I am not here for the outcome. I am here for the becoming. And when you live that way, you become dangerous. Because the person who cannot be stopped, the person who keeps raising their value regardless of applause, regardless of adversity, regardless of delay, that person becomes unbeatable. Not because they're the smartest, not because they're the fastest, but because they're the last one standing. The most valuable thing you can ever become is someone who refuses to quit growing. That is how wealth is built. That is how freedom is earned. That is how legends are made. And you are becoming one. So stay in the fight. Refuse to shrink. Refuse to settle. Every day you keep growing, learning, adapting, serving, you compound your value. And when value compounds, everything changes. People start calling you instead of you chasing them. Opportunities start fitting you instead of you shrinking to fit them. You walk in rooms and your presence speaks louder than your resume. And why? Because you built it. You raised your value until the world had no choice but to raise its offer. And now we arrive at the summit, the climactic truth most never realize. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you've become, not what you hoped for, not what you wished for, not what you waited for. You get what you've built inside and out. And what you've built is a reflection of how much value you've created, how much you've expanded, how much you've endured, and how much you've raised your standards for who you are and how you show up in the world. Because this world, this beautiful, relentless, unforgiving world does not hand out rewards for presence. It pays for performance. It honors value. It elevates the useful, the courageous, the clear. And the more value you bring, the more lives you touch, the more problems you solve, the more excellence you embody, the higher you rise. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your expectations, your focus, your skill set, your execution, your vision, your voice, your contribution. Because once you raise your value truly, fully, unmistakably, the world has no choice but to raise its offer. They start asking for you. They start quoting you. They start building around you. Because now, you are the standard. Now, you don't hope for opportunity, you attract it. You don't beg for respect, you embody it. You don't need applause. Your work is the ovation. And listen closely. You may not be there yet. That's okay, because you're on the path. And the path is real. It's proven. It's walkable. Brick by brick. Step by step. One focused action at a time. But understand this. Every moment you wait for someone else to change your life, you forfeit the power to change it yourself. So stop waiting for a raise. Stop waiting for the boss to notice. Stop waiting for the economy to turn. Stop waiting for the world to be fair. Raise your value. Raise it in silence. Raise it in the dark. Raise it with intention, with effort, with integrity. Raise it when no one's watching. Raise it when you're tired. Raise it when you're doubting. Raise it until you become undeniable. And once you do, once the value inside you matches the greatness around you, that's when the money comes. That's when the freedom comes. That's when the rooms open. That's when the influence begins. And all of it started the day you decided to stop asking for more and started becoming more. So here's your final command. Raise your habits. Raise your thoughts. Raise your work. Raise your standards. Raise your relationships. Raise your execution. Raise your identity. Because when you raise your identity, you automatically raise your value. And when your value rises, the world will look at you differently, not because you begged for it, but because you earned it. Remember this. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value. And once you do, the world will raise everything else around you to match the power of who you've become. You don't need to ask someone who they are. You don't need to listen to their speeches, read their goals, watch their highlight reels, or scroll through their curated posts. If you really want to know who someone is, look at their calendar. Because your calendar is not just a schedule. It is a mirror. It reflects your values. It exposes your habits. It reveals, without apology or distortion, the blueprint of your real character. What you choose to give your time to is what you worship. And what you consistently neglect, that's what you silently betray. We can speak of dreams, but if there's no time blocked out to build them, those dreams are nothing but well-dressed lies. We can speak of family, of health, of legacy, but if they don't show up on the calendar, they don't show up in your life. That's the brutal, beautiful truth. Your calendar doesn't lie. Your calendar doesn't flatter. Your calendar doesn't care about your intentions. It only displays your integrity, because your character is not who you are when you're inspired. It's who you are when you plan. When you decide what deserves a slice of your 24 hours, that's where the real battle is. Not on the stage, not in the moment of crisis, but in the quiet, behind-the-scenes discipline of preparation. What you write down, what you commit to, what you schedule, that becomes your reality. You are not what you post. You are what you prioritize. Because here's the truth, no one wants to say, the people who build empires, who live with peace, who walk with power, they don't have more time than you. They just honor time more than you. They treat it like gold, like breath, like purpose in hours and minutes. And they protect it with ferocity because they know time is not just currency, it's a vote. And every time you say yes to something, you're voting for a future. The question is, whose future are you voting for? Your growth or someone else's gossip? Your goals or someone else's crisis? Your legacy or your distractions? Because if your calendar is filled with things that don't reflect your values, you're not living a life, you're managing chaos. And chaos is where character goes to die. That's why the most powerful people on the planet don't just use a calendar, they live by it. They audit it. They defend it. They build a wall around what matters and eliminate what doesn't. Because they've learned, if you don't plan your priorities, the world will fill your schedule with theirs. And what's terrifying is how subtle it is. You don't wake up and decide to waste your life. You just forget to guard it. You leave your calendar open and the noise moves in. Meetings with no meaning, calls with no clarity, scrolling with no soul, tasks that check a box but don't move the needle. Before you know it, your life is full, but your purpose is starving. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reclaim it. Right now, you can open your calendar and declare war on distraction. You can turn every block of time into a battlefield where you either win the hour or you lose your edge. Because every hour is a test. Every slot is a story. And the stories you schedule become the story of your life. So take back the pen. Fill your days with rituals, not reactions. Build time for silence, for study, for service, for strength. Make room for the person you're becoming, not just the obligations that drain you. And when someone asks who you are, don't speak. Show them your calendar. Show them what you made sacred. Because your schedule doesn't just predict your success. Your calendar predicts your character. Because what you consistently commit to is what you quietly become. Look again at your calendar, not with guilt, not with pride, but with clarity. Is it filled with distractions that keep you busy or disciplines that keep you becoming? Do you see a blueprint for mastery, a mosaic of motion with no meaning? Because motion isn't progress. Busy isn't productive. Availability isn't virtue. And a full schedule doesn't equal a full life. It's not how much you do, it's what you do that reveals who you are. It's the quiet commitments that no one sees. The non-negotiables you protect when the world throws chaos at your feet. It's waking up when you said you would. Working the plan you wrote when you were strong. Staying in motion when your feelings beg you to coast. That is character. And character doesn't explode into existence. It's crafted by what you do every single day, without applause, without cameras, without permission. So stop asking what the successful have that you don't. Ask what they schedule that you won't. Because while you're wishing, they're working. While you're planning someday, they're locking in today. While you're managing urgency, they're protecting their purpose. You say you want focus, but is there space for it? You say you want mastery, but is it booked? You say you want peace, but is it on your calendar or just a fantasy you scroll past while numbing out on your phone? Look closer. Where is your learning time? Where is your thinking time? Where is your strategy time? Where is your relationship building time? Where is your health, your soul, your future? Because if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. Wishing doesn't build wealth. Goals don't grow without structure. And life does not reward vague intentions. It rewards calendar-level clarity. It rewards those who understand the calendar is not just a tool, it's a template for transformation. You want to know why some people seem so consistent? Why they always seem to have time? Why they get results while others get reasons? It's not magic, it's management. Time management. But deeper than that, it's self-management. And your calendar is where the truth shows up. Not the version you pretend to be. The version that actually exists. Because no matter what you say, you value. You don't value it unless it shows up in how you spend your time. And the deeper truth, you are always becoming what your calendar reflects. If it reflects laziness, you become lazy. If it reflects urgency, you become frantic. If it reflects alignment, you become powerful. So choose wisely. Every appointment is a contract. Every block of time is a brick in your identity. And eventually, that identity becomes your destiny. Because the life you want is not waiting on luck. It's waiting on alignment. And alignment is not found in grand intentions. It is carved into your calendar with surgical precision. Every minute is a mirror. Every hour is a vote. And if you've been casting votes for comfort, for distraction, for delay, then don't be shocked when your life feels misaligned. You cast those ballots. You chose to fill your day with things that starve your soul and feed your ego. but you can change your vote today. You can reclaim every block of time that's been rented out to the lowest bidder. You can pull your purpose back from the noise. You can take your calendar and make it a battle plan, not just for productivity, but for peace, because peace doesn't come from empty hours. It comes from earned alignment, from knowing that what you said mattered enough to schedule, mattered enough to protect, mattered enough to put on the map of your life like a sacred landmark. And the people who feel peace, they're not the ones with the most time. They're the ones who own it. They don't live by accident, they live by appointment. They don't let the urgent shove out the essential. They don't let the inbox dictate the vision. They decide what deserves a place in their day and eliminate the rest. That's leadership, not just of others, but of yourself. Because if you can't lead your calendar, you can't lead your future. You can't walk in purpose if your day is ruled by pings, by scrolls, by random requests from people who do not carry the weight of your vision. You are not here to be available. You are here to be effective. And effectiveness begins when you stop letting time leak from the seams of indecision. So get ruthless. Audit your schedule like your life depends on it, because it does. And ask yourself, hour by hour, does this grow me? Does this serve me? Does this reflect who I said I wanted to be? And if it doesn't cut it, no guilt, no apology, no delay. Because the world will always ask for more than it deserves. And your job is not to please it. Your job is to protect the flame, the fire inside you that flickers when you're aligned and fades when you're spread thin. Because if you spread yourself too thin, you disappear. And if you disappear from your own calendar, you disappear from your own calling. But not you. Not anymore. You are now the architect. You are now the author. And your calendar is no longer a list of demands. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. Then let the fire sharpen. Because this moment is not about managing minutes, it's about mastering meaning. You are not just creating a schedule. You are sculpting your standards. You are no longer reacting to time. You are redeeming it, pulling it back from the hands of distraction, pulling it back from the jaws of other people's expectations, pulling it back from the noise that kept you moving, but never arriving. Because now you understand. Busyness is the enemy of clarity. And if your calendar is full, but your spirit is empty, then something sacred has been sold off for cheap. This is where the war begins, not against the world, but against the version of you that let life happen instead of happening to life. That version is dead now. The new you don't chase time. You command it. You show up to each day with intention burning in your chest like a torch, lighting the path that others are still searching for in the dark. Because your character, your real character is not revealed when you speak. It's revealed when no one is watching and you still do the work. It's revealed when you open your calendar and there's proof of your purpose there, not just clutter, not just chaos, but proof that you've already decided who you are. It's in the workout you booked because your health matters. It's in the reading you scheduled because your mind matters. It's in the reflection time you carved out because your soul matters. It's in the conversations you prioritized because love and leadership are built in presence, not just performance. And when you stack enough of those moments together, you don't just have a productive week. You have a life of alignment. And alignment, it radiates. People will feel it when you walk in. They'll sense it in your silence. They'll hear it in your words. Because it's rare. Rare to meet someone whose schedule reflects their soul. Rare to find someone who protects their time like their destiny depends on it. Because it does. Rare to see someone who no longer worships the grind but honors the mission. You are that person now. You don't chase every opportunity. You select them. You don't say yes to noise. You say yes to necessity. You don't need to explain your boundaries, your results. Explain them for you. Because you are now a person of rhythm, of structure, of alignment. And your calendar, it no longer predicts confusion. It predicts character. It predicts who you are becoming. And every day, it delivers a message. I know where I'm going. I know what matters. I know who I am. And nothing is more powerful than that. Because when you truly know who you are, your calendar becomes your covenant. It becomes a sacred contract between your present actions and your future identity. No longer ruled by the chaos of convenience. No longer swayed by every distraction that flashes like a false god in the face of your focus. Now your time is spoken for. Your hours are no longer up for auction. Your priorities are no longer negotiable. You've built a rhythm that aligns with your reality, and you don't break rhythm for temporary relief. Because now you understand. The difference between the great and the forgotten is not found in intensity. It's found in repetition. Greatness isn't built in the highlight reels. It's forged in the hidden hours you blocked off when everyone else slept. It's found in the calendar entries no one claps for. Read, write, think, train, call mom, drink water, plan tomorrow. The world sees none of it. But your character is sculpted by all of it. Because your habits are a prophecy. Your calendar is not just where your time goes, it's where your life grows. And if you let just anyone or anything right in that sacred space, then you are handing over your future to forces that care nothing about your fulfillment. That's not noble. That's not generous. That's self-betrayal. Because every yes you give to the unnecessary is a no to what actually matters. And that slow bleed of attention, of presence, of energy, it kills legacies before they're even born. But you've put a wall around your garden now. You've chosen discipline over popularity, focus over flattery, design over drift. And it shows in the quality of your work, the sharpness of your mind, the steadiness of your soul, the peace that follows people who are unavailable for nonsense. Because when you decide your time is sacred, the world adjusts. It respects what you enforce, so enforce it. Let your calendar become a gate, not a revolving door. Let it reflect your highest self, not your loudest insecurities. Let it be your silent declaration that you will no longer live on accident, because you have chosen alignment. And every entry on that calendar, every quiet block of time is you saying, I am worthy of this hour. I am ready for this level. I am building a life that will outlive me. And that is how your calendar becomes your character. And your character becomes your crown. Because your crown isn't something placed upon your head. It's something placed upon your habits. It's not worn with pride dates, earned with precision. And every crown is carved from consistency. Every ounce of respect you command. Every room you walk into where the air shifts. Every goal that doesn't just inspire you but obeys you. It's all traced back to the structure of your days. To how ruthlessly you protected the morning. To how fiercely you guarded the afternoon. To how intentionally you ended your nights not with distraction, but with direction. Because direction doesn't scream. It schedules. It writes things down. It knows that without a plan, purpose starves. Without a calendar, conviction fades. Without discipline, dreams drift into the graveyard of good intentions. So you stopped trying to find time. You started making time. Because people who find time live like scavengers. But people who make time, they live like sculptors. They chisel away at the unnecessary. They carve space for peace. They cut the fat and leave only the essentials. Because they understand time is not just a resource. It's a refinement. How you use it defines how sharp you are, how effective you are, how dangerous you are to every obstacle that once stood in your way. And when you live like this long enough, your calendar stops being just a tool. It becomes a testimony, not of how much you do, but of who you've become. Because real character is not built in public. It's built at 5:00 a.m. It's built when you turn off the phone to turn on your mind. It's built when you skip the party to build the plan. It's built when you say no to what's popular, to say yes to what's personal. And personal greatness, it doesn't beg for attention. It moves in alignment so deeply that the results speak in a voice louder than your own. Because the strongest people you know, the most grounded, the most focused, the most unstoppable, they're not the busiest. They're the most aligned. And that alignment, it was booked on a calendar long before it was seen on a stage. So if you want to know what kind of life you're creating, don't look in the mirror. Look at the schedule. That's the real reflection. That's the real version of you. The version that either honors the future or delays it. The version that either compounds strength or leaks energy. The version that either leads or lingers. So choose now and choose daily. What kind of life are you scheduling? Because that's the kind of life you're living. Then brace yourself. Because what comes next is not just a reminder, it's a reckoning. Because one day, the clock will run out. And when it does, you won't be judged by what you meant to do. You won't be remembered for what you hoped would happen. You'll be remembered for what you showed up for what you made time for what you sacrificed for, and most of all, for what you were willing to schedule when it was easier to sleep, easier to scroll, easier to stall. Your calendar is your confessional. It tells the truth when your words lie. It tells the truth when your excuses dress themselves as logic. It tells the truth when your ambition pretends it's action. Because you don't rise to your level of intention. You rise or fall to the level of your systems. And your calendar, that's the system of your soul. It tells the world what you really care about. It tells the future, whether you're ready or just rehearsing. It tells you whether you are walking in alignment or just surviving on adrenaline. So ask you seriously, silently, right now, does my calendar reflect my courage or my comfort? Does it reflect my conviction or my confusion? Does it reflect my legacy or my laziness? Because there will be a day not far from now when someone opens your calendar after you're gone. And it won't just be an archive of appointments. It will be an autopsy of your existence. It will show where your time went, where your life was spent, where your energy flowed. And it will answer the question, did they matter? Not just in intention, but in impact. And that impact, it starts now. It starts with the next block of time. It starts with you looking at your schedule and no longer seeing it as a burden, but as a blueprint. You don't need another guru. You don't need another book. You need to own your hours. Because once you do, the world changes. Your results shift. Your clarity sharpens. Your habits harden. And you become a force. The kind of force that doesn't beg for time. The kind of force that doesn't explain why they're unavailable for mediocrity. The kind of force that moves through the world with precision, purpose, and a plan that's already booked. You are that force now. Because you've remembered, your calendar is more than a tool. It is the altar of your alignment. It is the mirror of your mission. It is the map of your meaning. And now, you live by it with such clarity, such consistency, such conviction, that when someone asks what defines their character, all they'll have to do is look at your calendar, and the answer will be clear. Because you didn't just talk about purpose. You scheduled it. You protected it. You became it. And now, you don't just manage time. You master yourself. That is character. That is power. That is legacy. You will never rise above the level of your environment for long. You can have the vision. You can have the hunger. You can carry the dream inside your chest like a fire that won't go out. But if the soil you're planted in is poisoned, your potential will rot from the inside out. Your environment is not neutral. It is never passive. It is a force. It is either sharpening your edge or dulling your blade. It is either feeding your discipline or justifying your distraction. It is either confirming your greatness or constantly questioning your worth. And if you don't choose your environment with intention, you will be chosen by it, shaped by it, defined by it, imprisoned by it. Your environment is not just the place you live, it's the energy you allow, the conversations you engage in, the voices you let echo in your mind, the standards you tolerate around you. The moment you begin to elevate, your environment becomes either your launch pad or your anchor. Look around. Are you being fueled or are you being drained? Every person in your circle is either a mirror or a mold. They reflect what you are or they pressure you to become what they are. Energy is contagious. And if you're constantly around people who shrink, you'll eventually forget you were born to expand. You cannot become unstoppable in a culture of complacency. You cannot become disciplined in a room where excuses are currency. You cannot become focused when your surroundings celebrate distraction. Environment is power. That's why lions raised among sheep forget they are lions. That's why eagles stuck in cages begin to envy chickens. And that's why gifted, hungry, brilliant people stay stuck because the air around them is too heavy to breathe. And so they suffocate quietly without even knowing why. Not because they lacked motivation, but because their environment didn't support their mission. It's not about arrogance. It's about atmosphere. It's about alignment. If your goals require fire, stop standing in the rain. If your soul demands growth, stop surrounding it with decay. If your future calls for war, stop hanging around people who only know peace. Because here's the truth. You don't need everyone to support you. You don't need a crowd. You don't need a cheer squad. But you do need a space that doesn't drain you. You need silence that helps you hear your own voice. You need people who don't let you off the hook. You need friction that refines you, not friction that distracts you. Growth begins the moment you stop asking, who's with me? And start asking, what's around me? Audit the noise. Filter the input. Elevate the space. And if you must walk alone, because walking alone with clarity is better than standing still with a crowd. Mindset is not just built inside, it's shaped by what surrounds you. What you hear becomes what you think. What you think becomes what you believe. What you believe becomes what you do. And what you do becomes who you are. So what are you hearing daily? What are you absorbing unconsciously? What is the texture of your environment? Is it soft and safe, or is it sharp and sculpting? If your environment does not challenge you, it will cradle you. And cradle dreams never walk. They never fight. They never break through. They die comfortable. They die slowly. They die calling your name as you walk away from yourself. Do not let that be your story. Create an environment that demands your greatness. That stretches you. That calls you out. That pulls you up. That refuses to let you settle. And if you can't find it, be it. Be the spark. Be the standard. Be the atmosphere changer. Because sometimes the most powerful environment is not a place. It's a decision. It's a room you build in your mind. A fortress of focus. A cathedral of discipline. A battlefield of intention. Your habits are planted in the garden of your environment. And if the soil is toxic, your discipline won't last. Don't just change your life. Change the setting. Change the inputs. Change the conversations. Change the energy. Because your environment is the stage and your future is the performance. You can't perform a masterpiece in a space built for mediocrity. So raise the room. Raise the frequency. Raise the expectation. And watch who stays. Watch who runs. Watch what grows. Watch what dies. It's not personal. It's alignment. You are not obligated to remain in spaces that choke your evolution. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to become. And becoming requires space. Becoming requires silence. Becoming requires standards. High ones. Non-negotiable ones. Ones that scare small minds and call forth giants. Because giants are not born, they are forged. forged in friction, forged in fire, forged in rooms that demand more, not less. More focus, more courage, more responsibility. And that's the tragedy of staying in environments that drain you. They don't just cost you time. They cost you identity. They convince you that your ceiling is permanent, that your limits are real, that your ambition is too much. And slowly, subtly, silently, you start to shrink. You laugh less. You move slower. You question yourself more. Until one day you forget what it ever felt like to be powerful. But let me remind you, you are powerful. Not by accident, not by luck, but by design. You were built to expand, built to stretch, built to lead. But you can't lead in an environment where people fear the sound of truth. You can't fly in a cage made of comfort. You need pressure, but not poison. You need standards, but not sabotage. You need friction that refines not, friction that fractures. And sometimes the most courageous thing you'll ever do is leave the room. The one that praises your old self, but resists your new self. The one that applauds your stagnation, but mocks your transformation. You were not meant to stay small, just so others feel big. You were not meant to hide your vision just so someone else can sleep at night. There comes a time where you must rise alone, if necessary, because the cost of staying is always greater than the fear of leaving. And when you leave, something happens. The air gets clearer. The voice inside grows louder. Your focus sharpens. Your steps quicken. Because finally, you are aligned. Not just with your goals, but with your greatness. And now the work begins. You start curating everything. Your space, your sounds, your schedule, your inputs. No more passive consumption. No more ambient noise. Everything around you becomes intentional. Your phone is not just a tool, it's a portal. Your desk is not just furniture, it's an altar. Your playlists are not just music, they are primers for performance. Everything you touch either triggers your power or your procrastination. And you begin to notice what lifts you, what drains you, what sharpens you, what softens you. You begin to protect your energy like it's gold because it is. Because your energy is the gateway to your action. And your action is the proof of your alignment. Look, your environment will either reinforce your standards or erode them. There is no neutral ground. There is no just chill. There is either intention or infection. So ask yourself daily, is this space lifting my vision or lowering my standards? Are these people multiplying my belief or managing my potential? Are my surroundings calling me to lead or lulling me to sleep? And if the answer burns, good. That's the signal. That's the fire. That's the moment you choose yourself. You will not apologize for evolving. You will not shrink for approval. You will not abandon your destiny to keep people comfortable. You will build the space you need to rise, brick by brick, choice by choice, habit by habit. Because you know now, environment isn't something you tolerate. It's something you design. Then let's keep building, because the environment you allow is the foundation you stand on. And if the foundation is cracked, everything you build will collapse under the weight of your own potential. Design is the new discipline. You must become an architect of atmosphere, where your desk is your war table, your phone, a weapon, not a weakness, your schedule, a shield that protects your time like a fortress, and your circle, a council of warriors who call you forward, never backward. You see, discipline doesn't just live in the mind, it lives in the air around you. That's why some people can walk into a room and feel smaller, because the room wasn't built to hold them. And it's not their fault, it's their responsibility. You do not wait for the right environment. You create it. You strip away what numbs you. You remove what drains you. You silence what distracts you. You elevate what sharpens you. Because the cost of staying in the wrong space is invisible until it becomes unbearable. It shows up in your energy, your sleep, your creativity, your courage. And when your environment is off, everything is off. It's like trying to sprint underwater. You might have the heart, but the weight will win. So lighten the load. Curate every input like your life depends on it, because it does. The books you read, the voices you follow, the spaces you enter, the tone of your home, the focus of your workspace. Every element must either multiply your mission or it has no place near you. You are not harsh for cutting out distraction. You are not cold for cutting off toxicity. You are not heartless for refusing to babysit comfort. You are focused. You are called. You are on a mission. And anything that does not align with that mission is a threat to it. So set the tone, create your rituals, design your silence, make your morning sacred, make your space unshakable. Because once your environment aligns with your identity, you become inevitable. Not because you're better, but because you are undistracted. And in a world drowning in noise, the focused one wins. Every single time. They win not just because they know what to do, but because they know where to do it. They've built a space that fuels execution, not excuses. They've removed friction. They've simplified. They've elevated. They don't rise by chance. They rise by design. And so must you. Because your greatness will not survive a low-frequency environment. It will be starved. It will be smothered. It will be swallowed. So protect it. You protect your mind by protecting your inputs. You protect your momentum by protecting your morning. You protect your future by protecting your space. Your space is your sanctuary. Your space is your strategy. Your space is your signal to self that you are serious. And when you are serious, everything shifts. Because when everything shifts, you shift. You begin to move differently. You walk into your space and it speaks to you, not with noise, but with clarity. It whispers, this is who we are now. This is what we do. And your body responds because you've trained it. Because your space is no longer a cage, it's a command center. Your goals aren't floating anymore. They're rooted in environment. They've got gravity now. They're reinforced by every corner of your life. And that's when your discipline deepens. Not because you're forcing it, because your environment expects it. Let me say this clearly. Environment is the cheat code. You can grind all day. You can hustle till your bones ache. But if your space is not aligned, your willpower will leak. That's why the gym matters. That's why your digital landscape matters. That's why your living room, your calendar, your inbox, your bookmarks, they all matter. Because everything you touch is either a trigger for momentum or a trapdoor to mediocrity. And here's the truth. Willpower fades. Discipline cracks. Motivation disappears. But environment endures. It outlasts your mood. It overrules your excuses. It resets your standard the moment you forget who you are. So, ask yourself, does your environment remind you of your power, or does it constantly reaffirm your limitations? Every cluttered corner is a conversation. Every distraction you haven't deleted is a vote against your future. Every draining relationship is a tax on your greatness. And every courageous decision to clean, to cut, to change is a down payment on your destiny. This is where the shift happens, not in massive leaps, but in micro adjustments. You remove the app. You rearrange your workspace. You shift your morning routine by 10 minutes. You unfollow, unsubscribe, unplug from anything that doesn't feed the fire. And over time, your life transforms. Not because you found more hours, but because you took control of the hour you had. Not because you became more talented, but because you became more intentional. And intention beats intelligence every time. Because the smartest person in the wrong environment will self-destruct. But the most average person in the right environment will ascend. That's the power. That's the truth. That's the principle the greats never violate. They design their environment to demand their best. So design yours ruthlessly, with fire, with focus. Because once your environment is aligned, your excuses lose their oxygen. And when that happens, your execution becomes automatic. Because once execution becomes automatic, elevation becomes inevitable. But here's what the world won't tell you. Even with the perfect environment, you will still face storms, disruption, uncertainty, sudden change that hits like a thunderclap and tests every ounce of who you are. And this is where adaptability becomes your edge. Because the goal isn't to create a perfect environment that never shakes. The goal is to become someone who stays sharp even when it does. A champion doesn't rely on ideal conditions. They create rhythm inside the chaos. They use the storm as sharpening steel. They pivot, adjust, reroute not because they are weak, but because they are committed. Rigid people break. Resilient people bend, breathe, rebuild. And resilience doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get up cleaner, stronger, faster every time you do. But let's be real. It's hard to be resilient in a toxic space. It's hard to adapt when you're surrounded by those who fear change. It's hard to evolve in an environment where growth threatens the room. So again, your environment must support your bounce back. Not mock it, not slow it, not interrupt it. Because when life punches you in the mouth, and it will, you won't rise based on what you planned. You'll rise based on the systems you've built. And your environment is one of those systems. It should echo your standards. Reinforce your boundaries. Reflect your future, not your past. And when everything around you feels like it's on fire, your environment becomes the ground beneath your feet. The space where your habits take over. The atmosphere that says, we don't break, here we build. That's why learning never stops. Because the environment that fuels you today may limit you tomorrow. And if you don't keep learning, if you don't stay teachable, you'll outgrow the room and not even know it. Learning is not about collecting quotes. It's about collecting corrections. It's about studying your patterns, your energy, your space, and asking, where am I leaking power? What part of my environment is outdated? What needs to be upgraded so I can handle more? Because that's what growth does. It doesn't just demand more from you. It demands more around you. You can't hold a level 10 vision in a level 2 environment. You can't keep thinking like a seed when you've already started sprouting. And sometimes the boldest move isn't learning more, it's unlearning what no longer serves you. It's stepping back and saying, this space I once loved now, it's too small. This mindset I once needed now, it's outdated. This circle I once fit in now, it's a cage. Learning is the fuel that keeps your environment alive, fresh, and aligned. And you must never stop feeding it. Study energy. Study systems. Study excellence. Study those who've mastered their space, who walk into rooms and own them not with noise, but with presence. Because they've designed environments where clarity is king, where purpose is loud, where distractions starve and discipline feasts. And they live differently because of it. So must you. Because your environment is not a backdrop. It is the silent architect of your next breakthrough. Then stand with me, know in spirit, in soul, in fire, because we are stepping into the final stretch. Not with a whisper, but with a war cry. This is the moment you stop entertaining the lie that your surroundings don't matter. This is the moment you stop pretending that you can keep greatness alive while living in a room built for average. This is the moment you burn the old blueprint and draft a new standard. Your environment is not just something you manage, it is something you command. With authority, with clarity, with fire. Because from this day forward, every room you walk into should rise to meet you. And if it doesn't, then you either elevate the room or exit it. You do not dim your light to preserve comfort. You do not dilute your focus to appease the distracted. You do not lower your standards to protect someone else's ego. You rise. And if your environment cannot handle that, it was never your home, it was your holding cell. But no more. You are no longer available for energy that exhausts you. You are no longer accessible to environments that confuse motion with progress. You are no longer interested in playing small so others can breathe easy in the presence of your potential. Because now you know. You know that your space is your sanctuary. Your environment is your amplifier. Your surroundings are either fueling your fire or smothering your spark. And you've made your decision. You will not tolerate what drains you. You will only welcome what elevates you. And in doing so, you become something rare. You become untouchable, no, because life is easy, but because you've aligned everything around you to serve what matters most. Your vision, your mission, your rhythm, your becoming. And when everything around you is aligned, your decisions get faster. Your energy gets cleaner. Your habits lock in. Your progress accelerates. And the world feels you. Not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. Not because you're perfect, but because you're anchored. Anchored in intention. Surrounded by strategy. Fueled by focus. Driven by discipline. Held up by an environment that no longer questions your greatness, it demands it. This is your new reality. This is your new normal. This is the standard you defend with your time, your attention, your space, your soul. You think long-term. You act with urgency. You build a world around you that matches the one inside you. And now, you are no longer fighting gravity. You are flying because your environment finally matches your destiny.